attendees starting to join us now, so we'll give them a few minutes to get in.
And we may not need the whole hour and a half, depending on, you know, what questions and things they have.
Okay. Well, we've still got people logging in, so we'll give them a few more minutes.
Sure.
Got some more people signing in again, so we'll just wait a few more minutes.
Sure, I'm good with that. Looks like you have one question.
It's a hello from Tark.
Oh.
Hi, Tark. And Michael Williams, yes, you are muted. All participants are muted. I will explain that in just a minute. Okay. Okay. So I've got 2 minutes after 4. We've got 19 people signed in. So Nancy, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cathy Napier. I'm the Administrative Assistant Governor for District 7570 and also on the district training team and a member of the Rotary Club of Warren County. And it's my pleasure today to introduce Nancy Rudolph. Nancy is the past president of the Rotary Club of Strasburg, and she has recently retired from Old Dominion University, where she was a student success advisor and a wizard at online meetings, online discussions, online webinars, and she is a wizard at DAC-DB secretary requirements. So we're delighted to have Nancy here today to tell us about secretary requirements, how to navigate DAC-DB. And for everybody, this is the first part of a 2-part session because there's a lot to know for secretary. So we thought we would break it up into 2 different sections so you didn't have to sit for 3 hours listening to us. All participants are automatically muted when they come into a Zoom webinar. So if you have a question, there is a Q&A button on your toolbar. So please just type in your questions. I'll be monitoring as Nancy goes along, and we will answer your questions as we can. And if you want to actually speak, there's an option to raise your hand. That's also in the toolbar. You can do that, and I can unmute you. But again, everybody will be on mute except for Nancy and myself, just to avoid background feedback and noise. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy. Nancy, thank you so much for doing this for us.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Cathy. Thank you for inviting me. I'm not sure the title wizard applies here. Maybe I came through ODU Online. I was a student success advisor, and we switched over from the televised version, Teletechnet, of learning into ODU Online in 2014. So it was a bit of a learning curve for the rest of us too. We used WebEx, which is basically similar to Zoom. And we conducted all of our advising, all of our meetings and everything went through WebEx. And it opened up from being site-based and local students to, I had students in Germany, I had students in Italy, I had students in Florida on the West Coast. So you learn to do time zones there too. That part I might be a little bit of a wizard. Now with secretary, I've been a secretary of the club for 23 years. And I've just kind of learned from district conference when they would have the foundation or the secretary training sessions, breakouts at district conference, just going through the CTT training and then just kind of using the website, just kind of playing with it. So today we're going to go over some of the basics in part 1. And if you have questions, you can ask them at the end, you can ask them during. I'm comfortable either way. I want this to be kind of an informal session so that it's not fast-paced. And if I'm going too fast and you just let Cathy know that you'd like me to kind of go over something again or slow down, and we can do that. So without further ado, let me start sharing my screen with the slides. All right, so first part is logging in, member access. I'm sure by now all of you have can log into DACDB. Now one thing, I've had members have said that they couldn't get into DACDB. They Googled it and went to login, but they had issues. And especially if you're over level 1, when you Google it and you go to that and it gets you the Google page and you see that login, you want to click on the Rotary 7570 heading to go into the page. That login that comes up on Google will let you in. It will take you to the login page, but only as a level 1. It won't show anything else. So you want to avoid that. And when you have members that try to go in that way, let them know. I discovered this quite by accident at a meeting last year for the district conference, and working with one of the members, and he said when I try to log in, I go to the login, I can't get past it, and he was actually an officer. So we kind of played with it and figured out that's the reason. So when you Google it, if you have a member that Googles it and says it won't let me in, or I'm a committee chair and I'm level 2 and I can't get in, then tell them don't use the login heading that drops down there on the Google page. So when you log in, you're going to enter your login and password, and you'll go into the home page, click on member access, you log in, and then when you get to the home page, you're going to click on the My Club, because you have tabs across here that will give you information, and My Club is where you want to go to look for information. When you log in, if you're level 5 or higher, you have to put the club number in. But if you're level 4 or lower, you don't need the club number to access when you go in. So with login, also it will behoove you to set up a Rotary International account, and we'll talk about that more later so that you can get into My Rotary. So when you go to My Club, you're going to see your My Club area. And you're going to look at all of the icons. They'll come up. Now you can shift these around doing a drop and drag if you want to put them in any special order. But you're going to see areas where you can access club members. It'll bring up your club member list. If you want to P-mail clubs, P-text, the district calendar and your club calendar, committees. You can submit attendance through here, and when you click on the attendance, it's going to give you a screen where it says you can do monthly or you can do weekly. Our club does not subscribe to the weekly. We don't pay the extra fee. We just do the monthly attendance, and it will take you in and show you how to go through that. And we can talk about that more too if you have specific questions about attendance. Some clubs use Rule of 85, some don't for their members, and those factor into your attendance percentage a little differently. You have one called RI Compare, and we'll talk more about that. So you can see all the tabs that you have here. Now some of these you have to, like club engagement and the finance, club finance tab, you have to subscribe to those modules, and there will be a fee, and you'll get that information when you click on those. But this helps you, all of these tabs are going to help you see your members, update information, The RI compare is something that we'll talk about a little more in depth later, but that's a good way to make sure your information in DACDB is also accurate in RI, in Rotary International. And as I said before, if you haven't already established a My Rotary account at Rotary International, you should go ahead and do that, because you will need that to go in for club administration, to manage club, and things of that nature. And DACDB is a read-only. It only shows read-only when you're entering information, unless you're integrated with RI. And that's what you would need to do to upload information and use the RI compare feature. Now, when you see your help functions over here, you can drop down where it says help documentation. And the first heading in there is how to turn on Direct Connect. It's a PDF that will give you instructions on how to integrate your systems. Most clubs are integrated, they've already done that, but if you're a newer club and for some reason it hasn't, it's read only, and you can't use RI compare because it says you're not integrated, then that's where you can find that information to do that and to help with that. So as secretary, you're going to input new member data, and at the My Data tab, each Rotarian, each member needs either to use an email or have a username. It doesn't have to be email. A lot of them will use email, but they could be, like my login could be in Rudolph. Now, if you have two members that are spouses in a club, they can't use the same login username information. If, say, the one spouse is using the login, her username is is her email, then the husband needs to, the other spouse needs to have something different. They can't use the same one. It has to be unique. And then each of them can set their own password. Now, and I've had this happen, I've had this happen where someone won't access the system for a number of times. They may go months before they access the system. And we have some members that just aren't that big into computers. They're older members. And they, and I can say that because I'm an older member. And they will either forget their password, or they just are keying in the wrong password. They've reset it. So they can reset their own password. So what they have to do at the member access link, they can click on Forgot Password. Passwords are no longer visible in DACDB. It used to be that I could go in and I could see a password. That now that security's ramped up a little bit more, passwords are not out there. If you reset a password, you can go to Edit Member, which is the pencil icon in your membership list. And then at the Login tab, that member's information will show at the bottom how many times they've attempted to access the system. And like any other system, usually after 3 attempts, it's not sure if you just can't get in or if someone's trying to get in, it's not you, it's going to lock them out. So you can go in and reset the attempts on this page to 0. And then here it says email user. You can send them an email that gives them the link to reset their password. I used to set passwords, and I usually use their member ID number as their initial password. But once this feature became available where they could set their own password, then I put that responsibility on to the member so that they could set the password. I can no longer see it, so it doesn't do me any good to set a password for them. So I automatically put that responsibility on the member. I send them the email. They can go right into the link. They can set their password, and they're good to go. I do remind them that passwords are case sensitive. Yes.
I'm sorry, Nancy. This is Cathy. A couple people have asked, could you make your screen bigger? It's hard to see some of these because it's not a full screen view.
All right, let me set it at is that better?
Yeah, that is better. Could you make it 125 and see if that would
Yep,
work
I
for
was gonna
people?
say, do you want me to pop it up a bit? How's that?
Yeah, it's better. That's much better. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Okay. Let's see if I can, yeah, let me scroll. So yeah, is that better? I can put it at 150 if they need it.
I'll let people type in. Just let me know. Is this
Okay.
better, or should we try and get it up to 150? Oh, somebody just entered here. Well, there was a question. Can we get copies of the slides so we get tutorials to our clubs? Absolutely. We'll be posting the recording and all of the slides on the district website when we get the CTT sessions completed. So yes, we'll make that available to you and let you know where it is and when it's available. And I did get a comment say, yes, would you please make it 150?
Okay, we can do that. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so this, now that you can see it, and thanks for letting me know that needed to be at 150. So you can see when you go to the login, this is what you'll see, their login credentials. The login retrack count, this will tell you if it's at 3, then it means they've been locked out of the system. So what you would have to do then is reset this to 0, and then you can go email login to user, and it will send the email to them again with the link to set their password again, so they can reset their password. And you can see it says here the password is no longer displayed. So once we got to the point where the security hid the passwords and I couldn't see them, then I would just shift that over to the member, a new member, and I would help them if they needed help, but let them set their own passwords and things. So I wasn't setting a password and then they had to go in and reset my password. It was just a much cleaner process that way. And as I said before, let them know passwords are case sensitive. I have had a couple people say, well, I can't get in, and they had a capital letter at the first and they weren't putting the capital letter in there as their first letter, and the system wouldn't recognize it. So they are case sensitive.
Nancy,
right.
You've got another question here. What if the secretary could not remember the password?
For the member or for themselves?
That question's coming from Tark. Tark, could you, oh, for themselves. He clarified, for themselves.
Okay. If you can't remember your own password, you should be able to get into, because this is my information, you should be able to go in to your login and look at your credentials. And if you've locked yourself out, reset this, you can send yourself the email and you should be able to reset your password from that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And if not, then I would say contact the district secretary. But it should allow you to do that. I've not had that happen before. And one thing that they tell you is you shouldn't write down passwords. Well, my take on that is I write mine down, because when I worked at Old Dominion, I had several different systems, and I also had access to Lord Fairfax Network and my Rotary passwords. And if I didn't write them down, I could remember who was what. And with ODU, you couldn't just put in a person's name and put a letter behind it. It had to be something very unique. So they were hard to remember. So I'd say, you know, always write your passwords down, keep them in a secure place, but write your passwords down. All right, so now, so you're going to be adding and terminating members. as you go along as a secretary. So when you add a member, you click on the Add New Member tab in the upright corner of the screen. Sorry about that. This thing is so picky. Switch back here. Okay. At your membership page, RI is going to generate the ID number, so you don't need an ID number, and that usually happens within 24 hours. This is where RI Compare will come in when you use that. You'll go to RI Compare to see the newly generated number, and then you can input that into update the information. Until you have that new ID number and it's established, avoid making any changes to the information. So you're going to, at the left-hand side, let me come up here. You're going to go into, when you're at My Club, you're going to go into your screen. You're going to click on Member Compare. And then you're going to, it will bring up a screen that shows RI information on one side and DACDB information on the other. And that's where you'll find your information. So when you're getting ready, you're adding them in. The birth date is required, where it says required by RI, but you can add the month and the day only. If a member doesn't want their year of birth in there, then you can add just the month and the day, and it will accept it. Members can also opt out. I have a couple members that don't want their birth date information in there, and I don't force it. But I do let them know the year is only accessible to the member. Other club members can't see it. I can see it. And as I tell my members, I'm not really concerned how old they are or what year they were born. It's just there for demographic purposes. It will come up in DACDB on club statistics. It will come up in RI on club statistics, but only the member can see their birth year. No one else can see that. The mailing address is crucial because they need that to send their RI magazine. And their contact information, cell phone information and carrier can be added, and that's something that is good to add in, because when we talk about P-text in the part 2, you can actually text members. You can send out you have 160 character text that you can send to members, and that's a good way in order to get something out to them quickly, like if there's a meeting change at the last minute, there's been a cancellation. But you can do that. You can get that in there for the P-text. It will automatically send an email if that information is not in there. Now, when you put a member into DACDB, it's important that their address matches the address used by their credit card company. Because we've run into this a couple of times where a credit card, the credit card company actually kicked it out because the email or the mailing address on the credit card wasn't the same as the mailing address in DACDB that for the event they were registering for. So the credit card company kicked it out. So you want to make sure that to let your members know, like if they're registering for district conference or for training, like RLI training, then they want to make sure that the address on their credit card is the same as in the in DACDB. For some reason, it gets kicked out. And that was another thing where we learned that by trial and error. Now, at the login tab, when you go to login, you're going to see the user tab an email will generate to the new member, and then they can establish their password, as we said before. All members will show as level 1 as a member. Once they become like a committee chair, that's a level 2. If they're an officer, they're in at level 4. So each level has a different access into different modules in the system. Level 1 can only access their information only and can see the club membership, but they can't have access to the other club members' info. So that's adding. Now, when you terminate a member, if you have a member that has relocated or they're no longer, then you go here to this red X by the name, and you click on that. Your screen will come up, and you'll show a termination. You'll put in a termination reason, the date, and then hit terminate in the upper right-hand corner, and that takes them out. What will happen then is you'll have a tab here for terminated members that you can show, and you want to keep that information in your terminated members in case something happens, they come back and want to reinstate. You also will have transfer members that will come in. And there really isn't a transfer per se. You don't really transfer from one club to another. They have to exit one club, they have to terminate from one club, and then come into the new club. When you go to My Club and you look at your functions, your admin functions on the left side of the screen, you're going to have a drop down here for member transfer. That'll bring up a search box, and you're going to look, type in a name or a partial part of the name, and you're going to do a search. And this helps to make sure that they haven't been a member like eons ago and just didn't think it was something they needed to say. That way you can see if they've been a previous member, because if they have been, you want to use that previous club member ID number as their number so you don't have two duplicate membership files in DACDB. You can then use the member compare to move them into DACDB as a transfer, and it will automatically, you don't have to go in and put everything in again. Now, occasionally you're going to run into people that have multiple ID numbers because they've been a member in another club, maybe in another district, or sometimes even in another country. You're going to have, they'll have a multiple number. If this happens, you need to go to the RI webpage and you need to contact your district representative at RI for assistance. They can help you merge the numbers, and then we'll tell you which number can be used as the member ID number. Now, in a transfer, when you go to transfer a member or to reinstate a previously terminated member, you'll go into your club and you'll open this tab on terminated members. And you're going to look at, when you get in there, you're going to go to the pencil icon to do edit. You'll click on reinstate and you'll add the date. Then click on reinstate tab at the top right of the screen. Now it has to be plus or minus 30 days because RI won't accept anything greater than 30 days. And you might want to look also when you reinstate a member or you're transferring a member, look at how many years they were in the club previously. Because once you transfer them, you can go in and click on the club tab and enter those years, and the system will track the years in Rotary. So that's one thing that you can do for a member that has been a previous member before, whether they were terminated or transferred. And that helps them keep track. Some want to have perfect attendance. And I had a gentleman that came into our club from a club in Arlington, and he wanted to keep his perfect attendance. So when he left his Arlington club, his terminate date with them, just for instance, say, had to be June 2nd, and his start date with our club was June 3rd. I used his previous ID number, so his records continued, and that way he didn't have a gap in attendance. And a lot of this, you just have to use the site and play with it. Just remember that if you're going to kind of play with the site and look at things, a lot of times I'll use my information, I'll use my stuff, and I'll go in and out and see how to do this. Just don't click on the update. Make sure you're on the cancel button when you do that. And ask me how I know that, the voice of experience. Make sure you're on the right button. All right, so go to the next slide. You're going to have P data for your members. So at the member page, you're going to click on the P data tab. And let me get this down here so you can see. So when you look at your P data, that's your participation data. And what you can do is you can click on Add or Edit here on the page, participation records. So you can see I've brought up my information. You can put in people that are multiple Paul Harris, if they've attended and graduated from RLI, or sustainers, if they're Paul Harris, if they're a multiple Paul Harris. So once you click on this Add, Edit, you're going to have a list that comes up that looks like this, that you check. The various participation data. And the member can update this, or the secretary can update this, either one. Once all your items are checked, you hit Save and then Update to load those into the record. And then once you click on, once all that data is entered and someone clicks on that member's name, then at their member page, it's when their picture and everything comes up with their information. It's also going to show their participation data at the bottom too. And this information is also used as part of your club, your district, and Rotary International demographics to keep track of how many Paul Harris people we have, how many have gone through trainings, past presidents. So that's how you do your P data, your participation data. And that kind of gives you an idea there. Let's do the next one. All right, so this is something, editing club positions, that will come up. You'll get an email, usually from RI and from the district, that says it's time to edit your club positions. Basically what you're doing is you're going to set your officers for the incoming years in DAC-DB, and that's where you want to go into My Club. So you're going to go to My Club. Now, one thing about this, if you have someone like me that's been a perpetual secretary, you can clone that. You don't have to go in and add all that information again. You can actually clone that ahead year to year. You use this to set up your new incoming presidents, your president-elect, your president nominee-elect, your secretaries, your treasurers, and even some of your committee chairs, like your foundation chair. Your club foundation chair can be set in here. Once you set someone, say, as a president nominee-elect, you don't have to go in and update them every year. What it's going to do is it's going to automatically advance that position and populate for the president nominee-elect, then to president-elect, then president. Then it will go to immediate past president and then past president. So you won't have to do that. The system is automatically going to advance them. Once you do this, once you add all your officers in for the year, then go to RI Compare and make sure that all your information is correct at the district and the Rotary International level. Now you can add multiple years in here. For instance, our presidents do 2-year terms. And what the presidents do is, the system's only set up for a 1-year term. So I have to go in and I have to kind of do, it's not really an override, but just tell it, no, I don't want this just to be 1 year, it needs to be 2 year. And it will give you an information message that will say that your dates may not be accurate, but that's just kind of a notice to you that to double check. You just have to make sure that your dates are right for your years, and then the system will move them forward. So it's
and Nancy, I'd like to add this. This is really important that
Yeah.
it's done accurately and timely, because when, for example, I send out notification to president-elects and president nominees for pets. So all that list comes out of the DAC-DB information. So if it's not in there correctly, your president-elect or president nominee won't get that email. So
Yes.
it's really important to make sure that this is one of the more accurate things that you can do in DAC-DB, and very timely. So please, I'm being very selfish, please put that in correctly.
Well, and it is important to do that, to make sure, because everyone that's in the club positions, this information also goes to RI. So anything that RI needs to send out, they need to send out to the correct person. So it is important that it's in there correctly, that it's actually in the system by the deadline. And usually they'll give you a deadline. Once your officers, I try to go in is once our officers are set, say like in December when you do your nominations and you have your officers set for the next incoming year, excuse me, then I try to go in as soon as that's done in January and put those in there. So I know they're in, and that they're in there in a timely manner, so that once everything uploads into the system, then everything's right there. And that gives me time to check on it also. It also gives you time to go in and adjust. For instance, our president-elect, or president nominee-elect, who was going to be president-elect, took a job elsewhere and had to leave, relocated. So that meant I had to go in and we had to take him out of that position and just leave it vacant because we didn't have one at that time. But it's important that that's all kept up to date. So that's a very, very important function. Now, and there's one way that's that you can check on that is RI Compare. When you go to My Club, you're going to see here. So you'll go to My Club and you're going to see Club Officer Compare here on the left-hand side. When you click on that, this is what it's going to show you. So it's going to show officers in Rotary, officers in DAC-DB. And you can see I've got this through 22-23 here. So you can see our club president, secretary, treasurer, membership chair, foundation chair. And some of those I have cloned through the years. So they're showing. What this will do is it's going to look at the information that you have in Rotary International and in the district database. In this area, if there's a discrepancy, you're going to see a little pink box with arrows either that point load up or load down. That arrow tab, that pink arrow tab, will move data up and down from either RI to DAC-DB or vice versa as needed. You want, once you put your officer positions in, you've done your edit club positions, you need to wait 48 hours in order to do the compare. So make sure everything is loaded into the system. Once after 48 hours, then
Nancy,
go in. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you make your screen a little bit bigger on that one? Because there's so much on there, it's a little bit hard to see.
Yep. Let me pop it up at 200. How's that?
Yep, that's good. So maybe just scroll over so you can see the DAC-DB and the RI.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
There, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, anytime that you need it, something done or it's not showing right, let me know. Because a lot of times what I see may not be exactly what you see either. I found that to be true in some of these screens. But you'd see the equal sign. This is the column that if something was wrong, you'd have that pink, a little pink box, and it would have arrows either pointing right or left, up or down. So that's what you would use if everything was correct here in DAC-DB, but not correct in RI, then you would click on this pink box that was here and then it would move the information, it would correct the information. What you do is you want to click on the arrow that's going to move it to RI. If the treasurer's information was right in RI but not DACDB, then you click on the right-hand arrow and load that into DACDB. So this is a good way, once everything's in there, to make sure that all the information is correct in both areas. Again, you need RI integration set. So if you try to do this and you can't get it to work, it says you can't use compare or it just won't populate, you may want to check to make sure you're integrated, that you're not just read only. That used to be an issue in the past, but not so much lately. I've not had anybody ask about that. So give it 48 hours after you edit your club positions. Give it 48 hours, and then you can run the compare. There's also a member compare feature that you can use. Let's see if we'll show it. Yeah, member compare. And I run that about every 6 months or so, because sometimes members go in and change things and I don't know about it. So I'll run a member compare, and that will just simply bring up all of your members, and it's the same process. If something is not exactly the same, then you use the pink arrows to upload or download the correct information, depending on where it needs to be. All right, so that's part one. Do we have questions? That's kind of an overview just of my club and the functions. I could try to get into DACDB itself if you have questions, and we could look at that.
There's not a question, but a comment from Tarek. He says, "Excellent, thanks indeed."
Oh, well, thank you, Tarek. This is all kind of, you all are kind of our alpha test, since you're the first group to do this. Our beta test will be part 2.
Right.
Now, do you think it would be helpful for the participants? I'm going to ask you all, do you think it would be, do you like the slides? Or do you think it would be helpful if you had the slides and they're going to be available, you could print them off or download them? If you had the slides and I was actually in DACDB doing some of this, what's your thoughts? Because I'm good either way.
Well, while we're waiting for people to do, oh, yes, Tarek is saying yes, if you send the slides ahead of the meeting, that would be great. So there's
Okay.
a vote for sending them ahead. And Bonnie Good said she would like to have you in DACDB. So maybe you can pull up DACDB since we have still a little bit of time left, and actually maybe just walk through. There is another question, Nancy. This comes from Case Peterman. Can you describe the function of an executive secretary, club secretary?
It gives me access to a higher level of information in the system to use it. It was suggested, and that might be something that Nina Beth, if she's on, wants to talk to, but she suggested that I go from secretary to executive secretary, which puts me up a little higher level, so I have access, a little more access to different screens. This is brand new. I've only been secretary. I'll start executive secretary in the incoming Rotary year, so I'm not sure exactly what the main difference is, other than the fact that you have more access.
Nina Beth, could you elaborate on that one at all? She is on.
Yeah, in the nutshell, that's exactly right, Nancy. You get to see a lot of what the president would see and the treasurer would see. It's just kind of a overall access to the reporting of your club.
Okay. That's what I thought it was. And the reason that I went to that and we did that is that sometimes in the past, some of our presidents haven't been as computer savvy and really had a hard time in RI, especially when they were setting goals. And there was one instance where the president had set the goals in there, but then something happened that he was not able, due to something that was going on in his life, not able to get in there and update. Well, I tried to go in to update, but he hadn't set me as a proxy, and I didn't have access, and I couldn't get in to update. So as an executive secretary, that kind of takes that burden off of the president to make sure they always set me as a proxy in RI to update goals. And if we're pushing a deadline or something happens that, like he was away on a family emergency, then I could go in there and make sure we met the deadlines for things.
Exactly.
And just a comment from Tarek again. A secretary, club secretary is a level 4 access. Executive secretary is level 6. So that does give you quite a bit more access to information.
Yep. All right. So
and
let
Nancy,
me
there's a question from Bonnie Good. She said,
Mhm.
do you have more tabs at the top of your club name because of your position?
Very well could be. As I'm a level 4 right now. So if you're a secretary at a level 4, you should probably see what I see.
This is not about, I can answer that. As a level 6, you'll see a few more tabs than
Okay.
you will as a level 4. For example, there's a find feature if you're looking for a particular member. There's a find tab, but you can also find the member under your club. So in some instances, it's just the access location, but the level 6 has a little more access than the 4.
Okay.
Which is why you would have more access as executive secretary that would be similar to some of the others in your club.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I set
And
executive
there's one
secretary
more.
to start in July. So I'm assuming I'm still showing level 4 information.
Okay.
Kathy?
And there's a question from Michael Williams asking to explain the rule of 85.
Okay.
So I can answer that one if you would like.
Sure.
If your age plus your numbers of years in Rotary equals 85 or greater, you can apply and for the rule of 85. And what that does is that dismisses any attendance requirement for that individual. But again, it's your age plus the number of years that you've been in Rotary.
Let's see if I can get that DB.
And then and then that way you're not required to have 50% membership attendance. It's just totally eliminates the attendance rule for you. But you have to qualify, you have to request and be approved for the rule of 85.
Yeah, you have to ask the secretary to set you as a rule of 85. Let me get into DAC-DB here.
And while you're into DAC-DB, Paula Drady has a question. How do you clone officers from one year to the next?
Okay.
And we have another question here. Can you please share your thoughts on if it's a good idea to have the president-elect to serve as secretary? Do you think it would be a good idea to have sergeant at arms or a president nominee to serve as secretary because they work heavily with attendance?
Well, Rotary used to have something called walking the chairs, where you would start out like as a treasurer and then move in, you kind of move up the chairs, so to speak, like you go from treasurer to president-elect, president nominee, president-elect, and president, to give them experience before they, just got thrown in as an officer. So what you would do in that case, I was actually secretary while I was president of our club. I mean, we had 17 members at that time. That was in 99, 2000, and there wasn't anybody else to do it. So I just did it. Now, we didn't have DAC-DB then, and we weren't quite as involved, because I was told when I was asked my third week as a member to be secretary that all I had to do was turn in the semi-annual report twice a year and turn in monthly attendance, which I thought, well, that's no problem, I can do that. Well, it turns out they weren't doing everything they were supposed to be doing as a secretary or a club. So we found out that it was a little bit different. I guess it depends on the person. If you have someone that feels that they can handle that. Now, as a president nominee elect, that might be a little bit better than a PE, because PEs are going to go, and presidents are going to go to pets. So you just have to kind of balance that out. Can the person do both? Is it going to be too much? And sometimes the answer is you just have to do what you got to do.
So Nancy, there's a follow-up question on the Rule of 85 from Bonnie Good. For those who qualify, are they counted in the club's attendance percentage count?
Not if they're absent. They do not count in your percentage, and that's a legislation, I think it was in 2014. They changed when Rule of 85, they don't count for or against your attendance. If you have a Rule of 85 member, they're like an excused absence when they're there. You don't count them in. Now, you can, if they do attend, you can count them in that attendance. So you actually, if they're a Rule of 85, you actually have a benefit when they attend. You can count them, but if they're not there, you're not penalized in your attendance percentage. And right now we have 5 Rule of 85s in our club.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see if I can get, if I can share that DV. Okay, and we're in.
Great.
All right, so they wanted to, I've already forgotten.
To see how you could clone officers.
Oh, you could clone, okay. So if you're looking, so you're going to go to the admin functions here, and you see here's your RI integration. You're going to see that. So let's go club information. It's under admin functions. Sometimes I'm not sure when they set this up. Someone has set this up that actually is an IT person, and I found that IT people and regular people think differently. So under admin functions, you're going to go to edit club positions, because I would think that it would be under, you know, my club members, but edit club positions. And I'm going to use, I'll use mine. And you click on the pencil. I'm not sure why it wants me to move the window, but you can see there's a clone last position.
It's a little delayed, Nancy.
Yeah. So you can go to edit, and you can see it will show you the edits.
I'm not seeing that on your screen, Nancy. I'm just seeing a dark screen. I don't know if anybody else is.
Yeah, it's saying that I need to move the window away from the shared application, but I'm not quite sure where, since with one screen, this may be where having 2 screens would be a benefit.
Yes.
So I think that might be part of the problem. I'm sharing within a share. I think that's
Can you minimize the
not
back
letting.
part and see if that makes a difference?
Yeah, let me see if I can move things around here. That work?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Let me minimize
me
this
see.
part. Still showing black?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, it's saying my screen sharing is paused. Yeah, it looks like you can't share within a share. Let me.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get it up in mine and be able to share my screen then.
Okay.
I'll just click on you, Nancy. Oh, actually, I can click on click on me. But
Yeah, I'm gonna stop my share.
I'm not an officer. I'm going to click Michael Williams. I'm going to use you. And then see if I can share my screen and show you this. Just 1 second. Okay, Nancy, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I went into my club and I did the admin functions and then edit club officers. And I brought up Michael Williams, who is on this call, and he is my club's secretary-elect. So if we wanted to clone this, and Nancy, I'll do it, but you walk me through it. I'm going to clone this window.
Well,
Is that what I want to do? Or clone last position?
Clone last position.
And don't worry, Michael, I'll go back and change it.
And see, it's now cloned. You cloned him into the next year, 21, 22.
Right here. Yep.
Yep.
Up here. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does, he's now secretary-elect.
Mm-hmm.
Come July 1, he'll be secretary.
Yep.
And then when I cloned it, it makes him secretary for
Yep.
21, the Rotary 21, 22 year.
Correct.
And I'm sure Michael doesn't want to do that. So I am not going to accept it, correct?
Yep. Right, you want to delete it.
And to do that, oh, see, it shows here that I was the one who changed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to delete this one. I'll click on this one and delete, right?
Yes, I believe that's how. I've never had to delete one, so we're about to find out.
Okay, well, I don't want to delete him totally. So I think what I'll do for right now is just not hit add.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there, I'm just going to get out of that. So stop sharing. So if there's anything else that people want to see close up, if I can do that, that will be.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael's sending me jokes. Okay. We're good. Dana Guthrie said it'd be helpful to show Irvin how to edit his position and add another position so that if he has one that remains within the same year.
Okay.
All right, let me go back to here. Hang on. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm in my club. Here's my club. And let me go back, Dana, and see if I understand your question. Donna Beth, can you see Dana's question and reread it? I have to get out of my screen if I do that.
Yeah, she said, would it be helpful to show everyone how to edit his position to add another position? In other words, if he had multiple positions in a given year. So I would just find him and click on the pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Everybody seeing that?
Yep.
All right. So we're going to add another position. So you go over here to add. And this is where you would fill in the year. So this is saying for 2022, but you can go and add it for a different year. You can go back and say for July 2020. Date span multiple org years. So he's telling me I've spanned these for multiple years within Rotary, and it's telling me there's a problem. So I'm going to add him now to 2021 here. And let's make this June 30th, 2021. Okay. And we're going to add him. Great. Add button above to the right. Select one of the club positions. Go here, add. Oh, enter club position. Okay.
We're not
So
seeing
here are the. You're
Yeah,
not
we're not
seeing
seeing
it?
any.
those screens, no.
Okay, let me go back here. Oh, probably because I'm within the screen is why it's doing that.
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I can, let me get back to where I was, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let me see if I can do this with a new share. No, that's not what I want.
What if you go over to admin functions and do edit club positions and go that way?
It's the same thing we were having of a screen within a screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me stop that. Let me I can do it online and then get back to that screen. So if there are other questions, let's see, we do. Oh, I've been asked why did I make it 2022 instead of 2021. I was just throwing in years. It could be any year you need, Bonnie. She asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just doing that as an example. But if you wanted to do it for the following year, you could do it that way, or you could do it within the same year, because some people may have multiple positions within the club. Say, for example, your club secretary may also be your foundation person as well too. So you would add that to them as well.
Yeah, our club president is now our interact advisor or contact for Strasburg High School. So he has multiple roles in there.
Okay, I'm trying to get back.
Let me see if I can bring it up again.
Yeah, if you don't mind, thank you.
Okay.
Mine's taken forever for some reason.
All right, I'm back there. me share my screen again. Okay, are you able to see that everything now?
Yep, we can see all your icons.
Okay. All right, so you still want to try to the edit club functions?
Yeah, let's try that.
All right, let's see. We go to edit club positions. There we go. So let's say, let me play with mine. See if that'll work. Are you able to see that, or is it just?
No, it's still blacked out.
Yeah, it's too bad I don't have
So
a second.
I'll have to, yeah.
That's one of those second monitor things.
Cathy, I think what we can do is do screenshots and just the process on these, and then send that out. Or if there's time if there's time in Secretaries 2, perhaps that might be something that you could go over as well.
Right. So Dana Guthrie has raised her hand, and Dana, I'm unmuting you so you can speak.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The reason I brought that up is you want to keep the positions, if there are multiple positions, within the same year. Because sometimes people will create one for like 19 to 20, just say it's the president. And then they add it again and make the president the Rotary Foundation chair for the same year. And so then when I look at the photos at the top, I would see the president's name, but I wouldn't think there's a Rotary Foundation chair, because since it's on 2 lines, it doesn't show up. So you just want to make sure when you go in to add a position, you're like editing the position that's already there and adding the new position.
Yes.
So that's why I brought that up.
Correct, rather than replacing your
Yeah.
adding. Yeah.
Right. Great.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Dana. There's also a question, Nancy, that I've received, and it's for particular situations where one club had co-presidents. So one president served the first 6 months of the presidential Rotary year. The other one served the last 6 months.
That's a new one.
That was new to me too.
Well, and that, it would probably be the same procedure and same process as if your president, say, relocated, his business relocated him and he had to leave, and you had your PE then stepped into the position, or you had an interim president. What you probably would have to do in edit positions is go in and you would put, and I don't think they'll let you put it in partial years. I think you would have to put that president, the first 6-month president in that year. And then when that president was no longer president, you'd have to go in and edit the position and put in the next president for a partial year. I don't know that it will let you put a partial year in when you add someone into a position. I know it will let you put a partial year in when you have to change, when you have to edit a position. So that may be what they have to do, is put president number 1 in as the president for that year, and then president number 2, when his 6 months starts, go in and edit that president's position and put him in, or her, as the case may be.
Great, thank you. So do we have any more questions for Nancy? Are there things that you would like her to go over again in session 2, just to reinforce? Everybody's being quiet.
It's Friday afternoon.
It's after 5 o'clock.
We have lost out to happy hour.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, then maybe Nancy, could you let people email you questions if they have follow-up questions?
Certainly. Absolutely. They can either
Great,
access
thank you.
my email address in DACDB. Do you have my email address that they can easily access, Kathy?
I do. Let me just pull it up here real quickly.
Okay.
Kathy, while you do that, I see a question that says, will Rotary Club Central be discussed at any time? We'll be going over that case. Peter asked that question during the activity training. And you can find that in the calendar to register. What was it, the 28th that we had that session scheduled.
And I have Nancy's email address right now. It's RUD0NAN53@gmail.com.
Mhm.
Again, RUD0NAN53@gmail.com.
Yep, feel free to email any questions, or if you have suggestions, what you think we could do better the next time, please feel free.
Bonnie Good had a comment, Nancy, that you did a wonderful job and that
Oh,
learned a lot and enjoyed the class. So thank you so much for your time and all your experience that we can learn from.
Well, thank you, and you're quite welcome. Happy to help.
And just a reminder, the second session is scheduled for, I've lost the date. It's May 29th.
Correct.
May 29th.
May 29th. Again at 4 o'clock, and we've scheduled it for an hour and a half with questions. So please make sure if you signed up for part 1 that you sign up for part 2, because you'll learn more in the second session as well. Great. I don't see any new questions. Shirley Warren just said thanks with an exclamation point. So appreciate that.
You're welcome, Shirley.
All right. Well, if no more questions, then I just want to say to Nancy Rudolph, thank you so much for being our instructor and educating us. And thanks, Nina Beth, for your participation, and Dana. Really appreciate it. I think it was a great session. And again, if anybody has other questions or you want to see a repeat of some of the information that was given today, just let Nancy know, or you can email me either way at KP as in Peter Napier @gmail.com. So thank you all, and everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks. You all do the
Take
same.
care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.